Hello, Superboy Beyond fans. Welcome back to another one of our patented episode commentaries. To give you a little bit of an insight here, we're doing Knack, first appearance of Knack, but this is the second time we're doing this because we had a little bit of a problem with the recording.
Yeah, unfortunately. The only reason why we're mentioning this up front is purely because literally 2 days before we're recording this, we released the first of our Star Trek podcasts where we just discussed Strange New Worlds. And we mentioned at the beginning of that show that I was wearing my Star Trek hoodie throughout the entire thing and finally got to zip it up. But it's too hot to actually put the hoodie back on to fake it. So here we go. Anyway, this is Knack. Gilbert Gottfried's first foray into the Superman universe, as far as I know. I don't remember him ever doing a voice in an animated thing before this.
No.
He doesn't seem like the sort that would have been on Super Friends at any point. So even though I've not seen Super Friends, I did doubt that. But first appearance in the DC universe, a character that he would go on to write the origin for the tie-in comic, which is kind of awesome in itself. The only other time I can think of that happening wasn't with an origin story, but I know that the actress Nicole Maines or Baines, I can't remember if it's Maines or Baines. Nicole Maines played Dreamer on Supergirl, and she actually wrote some issues of a Dreamer DC comic, which is cool. I don't remember that happening very often, so that's really cool.
And issue number 50 of Supergirl, pre-New 52, there is a story written by Helen Slater.
Oh, really? Excellent.
Which I got autographed.
Very, very good, I don't have many autographs myself, but it is funny that I think the first autograph I got at a convention was also a Supergirl autograph. It's a signed copy of one of the issues of the Convergence event comic, but it was one that was written by what's his name? Marv Wolf, not Wolfman. Yeah, Marv Wolfman. Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking that was wrong, but yeah, it's an issue that he wrote, but it's an issue of Convergence that actually gives some more context to Supergirl's death in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. So it's a really cool little tie-in thing that you don't actually even need to read Convergence to understand it. It actually feels more like it's just, an extra little view on something that happened so long in the past. But I'm very proud to have a copy of that autographed, even though it's not something that he probably ever expected someone to bring him to sign.
Yeah, usually people bring him Teen Titans.
Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earths, just any number of brilliant things that he's done over the years.
There's one book that I have in my collection that I definitely want to get him to autograph one of these days. And that's DC Comics Presents Annual number 1.
What was that one?
That was.
I don't think I've read that.
That was the team up between Golden Age Superman and Superman.
Oh, I need to pick that one up then.
It also
maybe I've read it in a compilation or something. I don't know, but
yeah, they just released it in a trade paperback. It's the Countdown to Crisis on Infinite Earths trade paperback.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about picking that one up actually.
Yeah, that is one of the best, team up stories ever done. Alternate Earth team up stories, because it's not one, it's not two, it's 3 alternate Earths. You've got Ultraman.
Got Ultraman as well.
Yes,
yeah, I need to pick that one up.
And it also is the first introduction of the first and only superhero from Earth 3, Alexander Luthor.
Right. Okay. I'll have to check that out. I've always liked the DC Comics Presents. That's famously where that issue of Superman and Swamp Thing comes from. And yes. I think for a long time that was my favorite Superman story ever. for some reason. Just because when I read it as a kid, it kind of blew my mind because I didn't understand what the hell was going on. It was the first one I read like 4 times, just like without. I just as soon as I was done, I just went back to the first issue and started reading it again because I was trying to. Because Superman's kind of tripping because the mushrooms are messing with his head. It felt like I was too, as like a 7-year-old kid. Blew my mind. Still
Still
love that
one of the
story.
best Superman stories ever written by Alan Moore.
Yeah. And
Although,
whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, for the Man Who Has Everything, they're both very good stories. But for some reason, that Swamp Thing crossover in DC Comics Presents, and by, is it 67 or 35? I don't remember.
mm,
Either way, absolutely phenomenal story. But we're really getting off topic now.
yes,
We started talking about Gilbert Gottfried writing for the tie-in comic as well, and things kind of spiraled. So let's
yep,
just get in. Let's just get on now with the commentary. If this is your first time watching alongside us, you will not be hearing any audio from the thing, but I will probably put up like a heavily filtered version of the episode, like in the top corner up there somewhere.
yep.
It will be filtered enough that there is no chance in hell of anybody watching this as a replacement for the episode itself, which apparently is a very important distinction on YouTube with the copyright system. It's just there so you can make sure you're staying in sync with us.
Yep.
So get ready. Season 2, episode 21, Knack in 3, 2, 1, play. And we keep mentioning Gilbert Gottfried as Knack, and he is great. But I've got to say, I forget the name of the actress, but the one who plays Knack's girlfriend, who's named after a flower, and I can never remember if it's Rose or Petal or Blossom
Daisy.
or something like Daisy. Right. I knew it was something vaguely like that, but I can never remember. I think we should give her some props because I think she's very funny in this episode too. And, it's got to be very difficult to actually get a laugh when you're on screen with Gilbert Gottfried just because all the attention kind of goes to him naturally. So, it's no small thing. I always found this scene just so funny. This is. I can't remember if we even said it on the previous attempt to record this, but it's like Superboy is operating by cartoon rules in this episode.
Yeah, I think we did say that.
It's almost like stuff like this, and even the way they animate the car's wheels to make it seem like it's excited to get through the door, like it's something you would see in an animated special. Like it wouldn't feel out of place in an episode of Superman the Animated Series, or even something like Super Friends.
Yeah.
It's just Gilbert is playing the kind of character that everyone around him kind of becomes a cartoon as well. And I think there is a scene later on where someone in particular does become a cartoon.
And I believe I mentioned this in the last time. He's playing a Game Boy there.
No game.
And, yeah, no cartridge. No cartridge. But it's still making sound.
Yeah. They probably didn't have the rights, but if they had a game actually in the Game Boy at that point, you probably would have seen a little bit of the sticker, and maybe they would have had to clear that with the art department or copyright team or whatever. A lot of shows, when you see them playing games consoles, there's never anything in there. It's just a very common thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, they could have just taken the label off the game.
Or put a new label just over the top for the shoot, You could even just slip a post-it note or something in the slot between the game and the camera or whatever.
Is it just me, or does she look a little bit like Cameron Diaz?
What, the actress?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Maybe in the eyes. I just love his escape plan. Like having the tape recorder going and it's just him running commentary on being in his cell. Just genius. It's just, you can tell that Gilbert Gottfried is just having a absolute blast. Like he clearly knows that he's in one of the silly episodes and he's just going with it, and it's glorious to watch.
Well, he did the same thing when he was playing Mrs. Pitlick
Oh, totally.
in the animated series.
Which honestly makes me wonder if, Bruce Timm or Paul Dini or someone was a fan of this show and saw him in it, and that's why they cast him. Who knows? Maybe if I see a YouTuber like interviewing him like live on stream or something, I'll jump into the comments and spam that question and just say, "Did you hire Gilbert Gottfried for Mixie because of his role as Knack?" I'll probably end up just getting banned or kicked or whatever, but oh well.
Or ignored, because remember, when they do live streams,
Yeah. Most of the time you just get ignored, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do spam it over and over again, they just kick you out. They are good together on screen.
Yeah.
How would that work? It's funny, most of the scenes in this episode, I wonder how much of it is actually improv by Gilbert Gottfried. But scenes like this, I'm pretty sure, would have to be almost word perfect to the script because there's too much information being told.
Yeah.
But like the scenes of him in his cell, it really does seem like he's improvising a lot. Like, I know we say this a fair bit, but this is one episode where I really wish I could actually get a copy of the script and compare. Because, apart from maybe that scene, I think the majority of the time I wouldn't be surprised if like half the dialogue was improvised.
And here we are at the guy's dorm room, and Andy with another one of his patented get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah, and this might be my least favorite of his get-rich schemes. Like, I can sort of see some of his logic behind it, but not a good plan. Of all his money-making schemes, this is probably the worst. Although, actually, he does have some stinkers.
I kind of agree with you that this is probably the worst. I mean, it's it's 8-track tapes at this point in technology. 8 tracks were way obsolete.
And the fact, though, that he's giving out free tapes so that people will buy his 8-track players. Why would he even buy the 8-track players in the first place? I mean, I guess he got a really good deal on them and figured that even if he, managed to shift half of them, he probably will make a small profit. But the amount of work he would have to put in to make a very small amount of money just doesn't seem worth it for me. Especially when you consider that he's had better money-making ideas in earlier episodes than this. So like why didn't he just stick the Superboy masks, the fake chunks of kryptonite, which I would have bought, the glow-in-the-dark T-shirt? Any one of those, if he just stuck with them, he probably would have made money.
On a chain is a better idea.
Yeah.
And I know
a lot of his ideas, I think he should have just stuck with.
Yeah, I know I commented on this in the last time we did this episode, but Knack putting his name in marker on his suit.
Mm. Which almost makes me wonder if that was something that Gilbert wanted to add himself, because you would think, I mean, they've made this sort of strange looking jumpsuit thing. Granted, it's not a particularly expensive outfit to make, but they could have stitched on the name Knick-Knack. I
Yeah,
wonder if maybe Gilbert was like, as a fan maybe of comic books and stuff, maybe he just wanted to do it as a reference to the Adam West Batman series, like which just had labels on absolutely everything.
yeah. And I mean, Gilbert, as Knack, he feels like he'd be more at home in an episode of the Adam West Batman.
Absolutely. Which is, as I said earlier, it's almost like this episode acts upon like cartoon rules, because Gilbert's playing it like a cartoon character, so none of the other actors in the scenes have any choice but to match his energy. Or they'll just be, the episode would just feel wrong.
Mm.
And that is very much what the Adam West Batman is. It's like a cartoon brought to life, or it's like a Silver Age Batman comic brought to life. Which is funny because, that show was parodying the more ridiculous Silver Age Batman stuff, but then the show was so popular, the comics started doing it to mimic the show, so it became even more crazy. I don't know, maybe at some point we'll have to do a commentary on an episode of Batman 66. That could be fun.
Mm.
Very underrated show.
And you gotta feel sorry for Daisy, because I mean, she actually genuinely loves this moron,
Mm,
and she doesn't seem to get it that he has no interest in her.
yeah. And let's face it, it's the same dynamic that comes with Lex and Darla. Same thing as, Lex and Miss Teschmacher.
The only difference is,
I guess
I,
at least they pretend to be interested in them.
yeah,
I guess it's more like Lex and Leo in a really strange way. Like, Leo clearly adores Lex, and Lex is mostly just annoyed by Leo.
yeah. And one thing we did mention the last time we did this, where they just pulled up, is the Eckworth Space Laboratory.
Mm.
So a reference
And
to
this is
episode
the
one.
captain of the West of Alpha Centauri spaceship.
Yep.
And in this episode, he is playing it like a cartoon, just like Gilbert. And I love this scene. Like, he starts off, he's a little bit campy, but it's not super over the top. But now he sees the money. Now he's in a cartoon too, and I think it's just glorious. I love the tone of this episode. I just adore it. I love though that he dressed them both up like an old timey gangster and the old timey gangster's mole, and it's just
Yeah, and
there was no reason for them to dress up.
yeah, and the second the dog barks, he says, "Eat her. She's more of a meal. I'm like a snack."
But why dress up? There was no reason for it other than Knick-Knack clearly finds that stuff fun. He clearly wanted to cosplay as a real gangster for a minute.
Well, if you think about it, Knack as a character, and we don't get this insight into him until the issue that Gilbert actually wrote.
Hmm.
He's pretty much a child in a man's body, mentally.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, There's a slight hint of the Urkel Clark in this, but I don't think he's that over the top. Like,
If he could have kept it like this most of the time, it would have been so much better.
yeah. Well, back to creepy Andy, are we? Overly affectionate, overly handsy Andy. I swear they never settled on a hairstyle for Ilan Mitchell-Smith as well. I swear his hair is different in every episode. See, that's another line of dialogue where I wonder how much of it was on the page of the script. Because it seems like he has bits and pieces that he was probably instructed to say because they were in the script, but it's almost like he replaces every other word with something different to
Yeah.
make it a joke as well. I wish there were more episodes with Knack.
Yeah. I mean, Gilbert was so great.
He's one of those characters, like Lex Luthor. He could have returned for 2, maybe even 3 episodes a season, and I would have been so happy to see it. And unfortunately, obviously, he'll never play this role again. Or any.
Yeah. It's a shame that we lost him.
And so young as well. Like, I know he wasn't super young, but he was not. I was not expecting that. Like,
He was
I
like
don't think anyone
in
was.
his very early 60s.
Yeah, that's no age, is it? It's funny. He's one of those performers that it's very divisive. Some people love him, some people hate him, and it's obvious that we're of the sort that love him, but there are so many people that just find him irritating, and
Well,
I just
he can be irritating, and I will grant you that he can be.
usually on purpose though.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
And let's face it, who doesn't love him as Iago in Aladdin? Like, if you're gonna cast anyone to play like a mouthy parrot with an attitude, he's perfect for that role. I have no idea who played him in the live action version of Aladdin.
Doesn't really matter. There's no.
I'm never going to watch it anyway.
There was no reason for them to make the live action version.
No, I haven't. I don't think I've watched any of the live action versions of any of the Disney movies. To be honest, I did briefly consider watching Lady and the Tramp because I did quite like that film growing up, but I never bothered in the end. Especially once I found out it was a straight to Disney Plus release.
Yeah.
Just, something goes straight to Disney Plus, it's like going straight to video. It's like Return of Jafar or The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Which actually wasn't that bad, to be fair.
And I know I've said this before, that suit looks
I know.
ridiculously awful.
Yeah, it's like, Obviously, someone saw Aliens and wanted to do their version. But yeah, it works well enough just purely because he is like the toy man, so it's kind of like the toy version of that suit from Aliens. So it works fine, but ooh,
It's very reminiscent of one of those old wind-up robots that they had back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
especially with the way it walks. The way he's having to walk in the thing, it's very reminiscent of those wind-up robots. That's all. Yeah.
I'd still like to know how they did the suit with him in it and have him walk and it
It
not
looks like he's
fall.
on. It looks like he's on stilts. So maybe they just had a. It's probably a stunt double, but it does just look like he's walking around on stilts. They probably had him on wires as well in case he fell over. Although being Superboy, it wouldn't surprise me if that was one of the budget-saving things they ignored. But it's funny, it's like this suit and our last commentary that released as of recording this, Programmed for Death. That has a slightly dodgy looking robot. This has a slightly dodgy looking sort of power armor type thing. I don't know what they're called in Aliens. I forget at this point, but
The power loader.
the power loader, right? And it's, it's slightly laughable, but this is a episode that's slightly laughable. But most of it in a good way. This is probably the only occasion where something's laughable because it looks bad. But considering the budget, they could have done a hell of a lot worse.
This reminds me, I got to finish working on my Knack action figure.
Toys are for kids, Chris. I say in a room surrounded by toys. There we are. And now there is only one other episode with Knack, am I right?
Yes.
Just one more actual episode.
That's Secrets of Superboy.
Yeah, I wonder if he just started to become too big a star to do another one in season 3 or 4. Like, I can't imagine that they just didn't want him because he's great.
Yeah, and he did, write, the script for issue number 20 of the tie-in comic.
And by that point, that's season 3 or 4,
That at that point is actually around the time of season 4 because they only lasted another 2 more issues.
Yeah, and he did animation with Superman the animated series as Mixie, so it's not like he was done with DC Comics. Who knows? Maybe they just didn't have a good enough episode, or maybe Warner Brothers said, "No, we're not going to keep letting you use Toyman just because you changed the name." He's that's it. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, but if that's their argument behind the whole situation,
then why is Metallo still allowed?
Yeah.
It's a strange. It's an odd one. I can't think of any good reason why I wouldn't want Gilbert Gottfried in my show. That's why when we did the season 5 episode with Toyman, we didn't just cast a new Toyman or keep the guy from, what was it, Family Ties or Jeffersons or something? I forget.
It was the Jeffersons.
The Jeffersons. I don't know the actor's name because I never watched the Jeffersons. Sherman Helmsley. He was fine in that episode, although the Toyman episode of Lois and Clark is one of the weakest episodes, I think, of the show.
Yeah.
Let's face it, when Gerard Christopher wrote an episode of Superboy, he wrote, what is it? What's it even called? Some Wish for Armageddon. Like, he wrote one of the best episodes. Dean Cain wrote an episode of Superman. It's one of the absolute worst pieces of shit I've ever seen. Like, I get it's a Christmas special, and so it's got a slightly fairy tale tone to it. Didn't work.
The funny thing is that we did our season 5 episode. It's also a Christmas episode. It's also a Toyman episode, and it's 10 times better.
I can't say that. People seem to enjoy it, and I'm really happy for that. I think it's better, which is purely based on the fact that I purposely didn't include anything from the Lois and Clark version. Even though it's Toy Man at Christmas, there is no part of that episode that's taken from Lois and Clark. That one was wholly... It was original, but there were elements I pulled from comics and stuff. But yeah, it's funny. And part of me even wishes that, Mixus Pitlick or something was like played by one of the Superboy actors again. Like, Gilbert Gottfried as Mixie for Lois and Clark would have been great. Like, I don't hate Howie Mandel, but he wasn't good in that episode.
Howie was underused.
It was I like the episode, but it's not a good version of Mixie. Like, I love the plot. Like, Christmas is Christmas is disappearing. Like, first the tree disappears and people, like, everything Christmassy starts to vanish or something. And it's just a really cool idea for a Christmas special. I think that's what happened. Unless all of Christmas disappeared overnight and Clark was the only one that remembered, and that was the plot. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember enjoying it.
No, what I thought, if I recall correctly, it was that he was having Christmas continuous. It was the day Christmas Eve continuously repeats.
Yeah, but wasn't it like one thing would disappear from each loop? So it's like at one point the tree disappears, and then by the end nobody has even heard of Christmas at all, and Clark has to bring back the memory of...
So long since I watched it.
If I'm wrong about this, let me know. Maybe we can do this as a commentary at some point. That would probably be fun. Maybe this Christmas, since we can't do another Christmas special, since season 5 won't be over yet, and it doesn't make sense to have 2 Christmas specials in the same season. Yeah. Maybe we'll just do a commentary on that episode of Lois and Clark. That could be fun. And yeah, that could be good. Since we're starting to do commentaries on other things as well now. But anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed watching this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in again next time. And I'm not sure quite what we'll actually be doing just yet. It might be a regular episode of the podcast. Might be another commentary. Might even be another comic review. We'll see how we feel next week. But we'll see you then.